Just like that, the calendar flips to December. What's up, everybody? Welcome into yet another edition of the Baseline Jumper podcast. My name is Jason Goldstein, and on the line with me right now is a man who has a high player efficiency rating, but he hasn't even started his Christmas shopping yet. Ben McDonald, ladies and gentlemen. Ben, what's going on, man?
I am a terrible procrastinator, although I'm very happy this year. I have two Secret Santas with my wife's family and with part of my family. Really cuts down the Christmas shopping, makes things easier. I've migrated away from the gift giving, Jason. I like the spirit of family more than the gifts and so on. I like the quality time. So
You know what? That's a great point. I know a lot of people are in your boat right now with the less gift giving and more memory making. I mean, I just sat here and went shopping for like 16 people in my life, 16 of the closest people, family, girlfriend, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's a good idea doing the two Secret Santas and, minimizing gift buying. I really like that. I might steal that for next year. This year, the damage is already done.
it's not bad, but I'm proud of you. Getting the Christmas shopping done this early is a true testament to your character. It's how you separate the men from the boys when you look at when the Christmas shopping is done by. I'm gonna be done at like December 22nd. So
Well, you know what else separates men from the boys? The size of their wallet. And right now, mine is very small because of said Christmas shopping. So, it's the price you pay. It's the most wonderful time of the year, as said by many. So, no, Christmas shopping's done. I have a few trips coming up this month, so we'll get into this at the end of the show. But we're going to have a bit of a condensed schedule in the month of December. But don't worry, we'll still be breaking down the Christmas games and giving you your holiday dose of baseline jumper. So, Ben, let's get right into it. I mean, where do we start? The Lakers got off to a hot start. They had the best record in the NBA, but they've been overtaken by a team that you have not been so kind to the last couple of weeks. So let's lead off the show with the Milwaukee Bucks, now winners of 12 games in a row. And I'm going to paint this quite simply. Are you still not convinced?
I am not convinced come playoff time. I will say full disclosure here. I had a friend here, shout out to Josh, ask me for his pick'em league where he gets to draft a team. He had the number one pick. He asked me, who should I pick with the number one pick? I said to him, you got to go with the Bucks. The Bucks are absolutely the favorite for regular season wins. There's no two ways to slice it. I told you before the season, I don't think the Sixers are going to win a lot of games in the regular season. I think people are overhyping them as a regular season team, but I think they're going to be a dominant playoff team. I think they're going to be really good in the playoffs when everyone's healthy, hopefully, and they're playing their best guys. Meanwhile, the Bucks are just your prototypical regular season team. They have lots of shooters. They have lots of complementary players. They are a deeper team with everyone who kind of knows their roles. I think it's a team that's just built for the regular season, and they have a superhuman guy in the middle of it all, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, they're perfect for the regular season, and they just crush bad teams. They've played my beloved Bulls twice. They've crushed us twice. I mean, they don't lose to teams that they shouldn't lose to, and that's a recipe for a lot of regular season success. I'm a little bit more skeptical when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I think the Bucks are legit, though. I know they lost their boy Brogdon, and we say that on almost every show. But to be honest with you, I mean, they are built to last. You have Wesley Matthews, the Lopez brothers, Chris Middleton's come back. And I said, when Middleton was coming back on Thanksgiving Eve, and on next week's show, which is tonight, we would know if the Bucks are the real deal. Guess what, buddy? They haven't lost. So I think that's a good way to lead off the show. But I'm going to tell you something stupid that I did. I was getting a little hot and heavy on DraftKings since it is legal in the state of New Jersey. Can you bet on sports in Pennsylvania or no?
I believe you can. Yes, indeed.
Well, the fact that you are unsure of yourself means that you're a better man than me because you have more self-control, thus contributing to your fatter wallet than mine. But I took the Knicks at plus 16.5 last night. Why I thought that was a good idea was beyond me. They lost by like 50.
Yeah, that's tough. That's like, I think the rule for regular season betting is that the only games that I'd bet on are the really good teams against like the bad and average teams to just take care of business. Because good teams like the Lakers and the Bucks, they're not gonna let those teams sneak up on them. And those are the ones you can cash out on. So I think that the Bucks are a solid team. And don't get me wrong, I think they'll still even be decent in the playoffs, particularly because when you look at this playoff bracket, there's a good chance that, they're going to end up as the 1 seed and they're going to get a nice, easy 8 seed. They'll cruise to a first round series win. And I mean, there is a universe here. I mean, if the season ended today, which is one of my least favorite sayings in all of sports, but I'm going to use it here. If the season ended today, the Celtics would play the Sixers in the first round. We would have an absolute brawl in that first round. The Heat would play the Pacers. I mean, there's a good chance that in my view, in terms of talent, two of the top 4 teams would basically knock each other out in the very first round of the playoffs. So I think that for the Bucks, there's a universe that they do come out of the Eastern Conference. I still like the Sixers. I just think that they're really, really good defensively, and I think they're going to figure it out. But I think at the same time, while I don't really believe in the Bucks completely, if they just clinch the 1 seed and the Raptors and the Heat end up with the 2-3, that positions them really, really well because they'll have a tough second round matchup. But after that, they'll be heavily favored against the Raptors or the Heat, and they'd probably be favored against the Celtics at this point. I mean, as much as I'm sleeping on them, I still think they're the second best team in the conference. I think Boston's creeping up, but I still think they're number 2.
I absolutely do not want a Bucks Sixers second round matchup. Save it for the conference finals. That's the hope here. So hopefully the Sixers can figure it out and finish at the top 2, and then they're on a collision course to play each other in the East Finals. But I mean, anything can happen, man. It just turned into December, and we're already sitting here talking about playoff seedings. Oh my goodness. But the one thing I have to take away from that conversation is I need to start walking away from betting on sports as much as I do. And speaking of walking away, that was something Carmelo Anthony was prepared to do before getting that opportunity with the Portland Trailblazers. This is according to a piece published by ESPN.com today. Carmelo told Rachel Nichols, I was ready to walk away, and then the Trailblazers came with an offer. Well, guess what? I'm sure he's glad, just like all of us, that he did not walk away because he's the reigning Western Conference Player of the Week. He's averaging close to 18 points a game since joining the Portland Trailblazers. Yeah. And just taking a quick look at the standings, they've won 3 in a row. They're creeping up a little bit. They're only a game and a half behind the 8th-seeded Phoenix Suns right now. So, as much as we've been down on the Blazers, Ben, Carmelo Anthony has given them quite the pick-me-up, if you will.
I mean, he roasted the Bulls the 2 times those 2 teams played. He is really, really good at a few things on the court, Jason. I mean, we have never for a second doubted his ability to hit mid-range jumpers, and honestly, he's a good shooter overall. I mean, he's a good shooter from 3. You can't leave him open, and there are matchups, especially with the kind of attention that they draw to the top options on that team. I mean, you've got McCollum, you've got Lillard, and you've even got Rodney Hood, who is a sneaky good player. I mean, I have to say, I really appreciate Rodney Hood's game. I think he's a really nice player. And there's an interesting kind of nature to this team now, Jason, because this is a team that has an incredibly low ceiling, but it has somewhat of a high floor because offensively they're just really good. I mean, when you have those 4 guys I mentioned, plus you have a guy like Hassan Whiteside who can gobble up offensive rebounds and kind of put back anything, it really is hard to guard them in the half court throughout because they really have guys who can just make shots. And so it's a tough team, and Carmelo has fit in there because when they need a release valve, there's just not many guys who are better at kind of attacking a scrambling defense. And I think one of the things you noticed, Jason, I'm curious to see if you agree, I think that when he was in Oklahoma City, one of the things that he really struggled with was that he had to become so one-dimensional. It was just spot up, just do this one thing. And I think that was too much for him. I think he really struggled there in that role. And then when he went to other teams, he was with the Bulls for a cup of coffee. some of the other teams, I mean, those teams just didn't really have an offense where the ball moved around. And he's really good in a weird way, I think, as a finisher. He's always been a guy who can finish plays. He's a good finisher of plays. You don't think of him of a guy like Clint Capella, but that's what Melo does. He's a guy who's just going to finish a play for you. And so if you have a scramble defense, you get it to Melo. He either attacks, he shoots, he hits the open jumper, whatever it may be, but he's going to hit a pretty high percentage shot, and you trust him. And meanwhile, if you put a bigger guy on him, or you put a smaller guy on him, either case, if you switch, he can absolutely kill you still. So I think he's a good player for them. I don't think it's a ceiling raising move because defensively he's still just a sieve.
No, he really is. And the one thing that impresses me about the Trailblazers is that they're only playing 9 deep right now. You look at Terry Stott's rotation, and Hazonia's not playing. Anthony Tolliver's not playing. 2 guys that we had thought would be key contributors to this team, but they are operating right now with a 4-man bench. Damian Lillard appears to be healthy. And for Carmelo Anthony, this was kind of a right place, right time type deal. In that most recent win over the Bulls, I know they had a pseudo home and home with the game against with the Bulls, with the game against the Thunder in between. But Melo played 37 minutes. For a guy that came back into the league 2-3 weeks ago, and he's already playing close to 40 minutes on some nights. I mean, that just shows he's in shape. He put in the work. He has his legs under him now. And the Trailblazers look like they're going to be coming back into this Western Conference playoff race hot and heavy. So they're definitely a team to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be really interesting to watch how other teams kind of deal with him because, I mean, while his stats don't look great against the Cavaliers, really his last 4 games he played okay. He missed a lot of shots against Cleveland. So you're going to have to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But those other games, one of the things was he was able to be aggressive because they didn't have guys who could really match up with him. And that's kind of the key for this experiment, is that a guy like Danilo Gallinari is just not big enough to guard Melo. And a guy like Lauri Markkanen just can't stay in front of him. So he plays off, and then Melo can just hit him with those just shot in your eye kind of plays that he's grown accustomed to. So I think that when you look at this, that's going to be what's going to be really interesting to see with this team is as they start playing teams that have more length, have more of these kind of wing type guys who can play the 4 and can rebound, can Melo keep it up? And I mean, I think we're all kind of rooting for him. His next game is at the Clippers, so we'll get to see very quickly because he's going to be guarded by probably one of the best defensive wings in the league, whether it's George or Kawhi Leonard. So I think we'll get to see it pretty quickly how far he's come and if he's really going to stick around and be able to keep this up or if this is a little bit of a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I think that game's tonight, actually. So it'll be something to look forward to after we finish up here and get to cuddle up in front of the TV, make some hot cocoa, and watch some basketball.
Love it.
Moving on. So, I mean, I had in the notes about the Lakers here. They were the best team in the NBA record-wise coming into this week. And guess what? That is no longer the case, albeit it's by 1 game. They are currently 17-3, where the Bucks are 18-3. So they are 7 percentage points behind the Bucks for the best record in the NBA. I mean, what's going on with the Lakers? I know Stephen A. Smith and a couple of other pundits have said that they're still top to bottom the best team in the NBA. Are you surprised at what you're seeing from the Lakers, or do you think that it's been the status quo through the first few weeks of the season?
I mean, I don't know if there was a team I was more wrong about than the Los Angeles Lakers. I really felt like the lack of depth on this team and the reliance on some role players was going to really hurt them. And instead, LeBron has become the evolutionary Magic Johnson. He's leading the league in assists. Anthony Davis is, I talked about Carmelo Anthony as a play finisher. The single best play finisher in the league right now is Anthony Davis. And it's not particularly close. He's a guy that unless you include someone like Harden who starts, does the middle, and finishes the play, there's no one better in the league than Davis, who, if you give him an open shot on the perimeter, he knocks it down. If you run pick and roll, it's pretty much unstoppable. He can pick and pop, he can pick and roll, he can dunk on your head. I mean, he's just unguardable, and that's what surprised me is just the dominance of those two has been so great that it literally has not mattered who else has been on the floor with them.